Why is it that this story got so much coverage? The submersive story. Submersible. Why is it? Why did it get 5+ days when it should have probably only gotten one? Why is it that the government hid the fact that why is it the fact that the government hid that it had likely imploded a week ago and they hid that until Thursday? Could it be that because last Wednesday it was reported, like I said, the president's son, Hunter Biden, was getting no jail time for federal tax and gun crime charges? Could it be because of that? Look, I am not the kind of person who wants to just buy into conspiracy theories. I'm not. But what is not a conspiracy theory, what is absolutely true, is that there have been many instances in which the media will cover one thing at magnum, at its absolute max, so that people don't hear about something else. And now maybe that's what happened in this case. Maybe it's not. I'll let you decide. I'll give you what I know, and you can do your own research if you'd like, and you can make your own decision. But the way I see it, if you look at the timeline, you have last Monday, the United States Coast Guard comes out and says, we are doing a search and rescue mission. From what we understand, they have 96 hours of air left in the submersible. And then fast forward to then Wednesday, it's announced Hunter Biden is taking this plea deal in which he'll get no jail time. Thursday, it's announced, the sub has probably imploded. And actually, we kind of knew that on Sunday. Now, based on that timeline, to me, it seems like they were dominating news coverage to try to keep other things out. I mean, think about it. Just the week before, we had the UFOs. Nobody's talking about UFOs anymore, but everybody was talking about 2 weeks ago. Look, I wasn't on this show. I had other things to talk about, but everybody was talking about UFOs about 2 weeks ago. What was that covering up? We know what the submersible story could have been covering up. Then we had this Russian, I don't even know the whole story. I got to be honest. I didn't have a chance to cover it or follow it very much, but this Russian overthrow or coup d'etat happening. I'll do a short on that on my YouTube channel, but I just don't we consistently move from big headline, big headline, big headline. Read the second, third page, metaphorically, anecdotally, read the second and third page. See what that actually says. So I'm going to go into now this whole Hunter Biden avoids jail in a plea deal after he was slapped with federal tax and gun crime charges. This is out of the New York Post. First son Hunter Biden has agreed to plead guilty to federal tax and firearm charges in a deal with his father's Justice Department that's expected to carry no prison time. No prison time. Not a single day. And leave his record free of felony convictions. He's getting misdemeanors for this. After we know we have the laptop from hell. We know about the laptop. We know he's a drug addict. We know he's a crack addict. We know he's a prostitute enthusiast. But he's no felony charges, no jail time. Interesting. The charges announced by Delaware United States Attorney David Weiss' office amount to a slap on the wrist following a 5-year investigation into Hunter, who is 53 years old, despite the fact that he acts like a toddler, for failing to report millions of dollars in income from countries such as adversaries, China. Okay, and then the other one, maybe not an adversary, Ukraine. He didn't report millions of dollars of income from those countries. Then the president's son will plead guilty to 2 misdemeanor charges, just 2, of failing to pay federal income taxes, according to a letter submitted to a federal court by Weiss, a Trump-administrated holdover recommended to his post by the state's 2 Democratic senators, who are close Biden allies. According to charging documents, Hunter failed to pay at least $100,000 in income taxes in both 2017 and 2018, though the precise amounts of what it just knows it's at least $100,000. The precise amount is not listed. The first son allegedly received more than $1.5 million in taxable income in each of those years. Hunter reportedly borrowed $2 million to pay off back taxes last year in an attempt to avoid these charges entirely. Where does somebody just come up with $2 million for back taxes? I don't know. As part of the agreement, Hunter will enroll in a pretrial diversion agreement on the felony charge of illegally possessing a firearm as a drug user after he lied on federal gun purchase forms in October 2018 about his addiction. The first son is expected to get probation lasting about 2 years on the gun charge with a requirement that he stay sober, submitting to a drug test, and avoiding additional criminal behavior. That's hilarious to me. There's a few things that are hilarious about this to me. First, so he just has to promise that. So, I mean, yes, he does have to submit to drug testing, but then he just has to promise that he's going to avoid additional criminal behavior. It's never stopped him before. He also may be, or he also will be, or he may also be made to agree to never own firearms again. So he may have to agree to that. And I think this is hilarious because this is Joe Biden's son, right? And so he's getting charged with unlawful possession of a firearm. The Democratic president, Joe Biden, who is in favor of banning certain firearms from you for you to have. He would say that there are firearms that he does not want you to have, a law-abiding citizen. But his own son has a firearm illegally. Does anyone see the irony in that? Is it just me? I'm sure you might, you listener, viewer, you might see the irony in the president's son getting charged with unlawful possession of a firearm while simultaneously that same president advocates to take away guns from law-abiding citizens. You might see that irony, but does any Democrat see that irony? Any of them? No? Okay. Well, to be clear in all this too, the plea deal, this sweetheart deal that I'm discussing, is simply a tentative agreement. This is according to the George Washington University law professor John Banshave. He says a plea deal is a tentative agreement worked out between a prosecutor and a defendant. However, it does not technically have legal effect yet, unless it's approved by a judge. I believe his court date is in July, Hunter Biden's is, and that's when we'll know if this actually takes effect. But the fact that this plea deal was struck in and of itself is insanity. You want to know why? Well, committee chairman James Comer from Kentucky ripped into this Hunter agreement. He's also the one that's leading the charge in looking into Biden's corruption. But what he had to say is he said, let's be clear. The Department of Justice charges against President Biden's son, Hunter, reveal a two-tier justice system. Hunter Biden is getting away with a slap on the wrist when growing evidence uncovered by the House Oversight Committee reveals that Biden engaged in a pattern of corruption, influence, peddling, and possibly bribery.